Sup, Rohannes? I'm Leon, the Paperback Maniac, coming at you with my first vintage book review of 2019. Today, we are taking a look at Cold Front by Barry Hammond. This book was published by Signet in 1982. Just take a moment to appreciate that amazing early 80s artwork. I recently got a comment suggestion from someone saying that I should mention the cover artists when they're attributed. I thought that was a good idea. Oftentimes they're not, unfortunately. This book does not have an attribution on the inside. However, I do see a signature there in the corner that I believe says Hallman. If anyone knows who the cover artist of this book is, please comment below and let us know. So, I will begin by reading the synopsis from the back cover. 3 brutal men, a defenseless girl, and the ultimate horror poised to strike. You might pity the girl, trapped in a snowbound cabin in the Canadian wilderness with 3 savage fugitives from the law. But you would be wrong. It's not the girl you should pity, it's the men, as they waken a power beyond all human control, and their burning lust turns to freezing fear. Cold Front. The shivering starts long before the screams begin. I absolutely love that synopsis ends with a tagline straight out of an early 80s horror movie. It's actually quite appropriate. This novel begins with 3 roughneck, drunk laborers, they're like oil riggers, getting shit-faced in a bar who decide to stop in on their boss's office to ask for a cash advance on their paycheck so they can continue to get hammered. Now, the boss cursorily blows them off, even offends one of the men, a Native American guy, by calling him a crazy Indian. And that sets the guy off, and he starts just wailing on his boss. And before you know it, all 3 of the men are just beating the living shit out of their boss and having quite a good time doing it as well. Eventually, he passes out, and then the men decide they need to figure out what to do with him. I mean, surely this guy is going to now, tell the general manager about this. He may even call the cops. So they decide the best thing to do is to waste him. But before they do that, they go ahead and rifle through his drawers, looking for, maybe some money or something. So they go through the drawers. They don't find much. They find a couple of cartons of cigarettes. They do find a quote-unquote few ancient spunk-encrusted fuck books. And then, in the bottom drawer, they find a large metal security box filled with cash. Bingo. So they decide they are going to haul out the unconscious body of their boss, take the money, and they're going to drive out amid this blowing blizzard that's happening at the time. They're going to drive way out into the middle of nowhere, dump the body of their boss, kind of bury him in the snow, so that he won't be found, until springtime, hopefully, and, hide the loot someplace as well. And, by their reasoning, their work will simply think that the boss ran off with the money. And then they themselves can go out and, live on Easy Street for the rest of their lives. So they do that. They take the boss out to the trunk of one of the cars and head out in this blowing blizzard out, into the cut. So they drive out really far. The car does get stuck in a snowdrift, and then the 3 men end up passing out in their car. When they wake up, they go out, they check the trunk, and mysteriously find that the boss's body has vanished. It's gone. Now, this is very concerning, obviously. They need to find this guy's stat. They're like, what? How the hell did he get out of the trunk? They also need to find shelter because, as I said, there is a horrendous blizzard going on. So they bundle up, they gather their things, and then they start schlepping up the snowy hill in these waist-deep drifts of snow. They see like a wisp of smoke kind of coming up over the trees, and they think, oh, maybe there's a house, so they head in that direction. Now, as they approach the house, though, they find a horrendous sight. Basically, from the skeletal branches of a birch tree, they see hanging the mutilated corpse of their boss, all ripped up and stretched out of proportion. And they're like, what the hell? What did that? It's very, very concerning. But they keep on going. They're like, well, we gotta move on. And then they find the source of that smoke. It was actually coming from an old rustic wood cabin that's out there. And they kind of break into the cabin. It appears to have been recently deserted. They find some things there. And the most interesting thing that they find is in the cellar of the cabin is hiding a woman, a mysterious, gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous young woman. And she is very odd. First of all, she's got this kind of cold, pale white skin, almost like no pigmentation, like an albino's skin. And she seems very kind of like just out of it. And she doesn't really like pay them much attention. She doesn't seem like too alarmed that these brutish men have broken into their cabin. However, she does grab the ankles of one of the men as he's walking down the cellar stairs and causes him to fall face first and gash his head. And that dude doesn't like that too much. But one of the men in particular is very taken by this girl. He's very sexually attracted to her. He doesn't know what it is, but he wants this girl immediately. The other guys are a little weirded out by her, and she is quite strange. She's kind of, as I said, checked out. She's daydreamy. I mean, the one guy wonders if she's maybe retarded or maybe on dope or something. I kind of imagine this character, the girl, to be like Jodie Foster in that 90s movie Nell, just like a very kind of just weird girl. But yeah, but this guy really wants her, even though, she did sort of, grab the ankles of one of his friends and make him fall down. Well, that guy, he accosts her, and when he says like, hey, why did you do that to me? She gets kind of scared and bites him on the belly. And then they decide, oh, we better, if we're going to stay the night here, we better tie this chick up. This girl's crazy. So they tie her up, and they have the Native American dude, one of these three men, kind of be the watchman for the first night. And he's got a shotgun. So, he's standing watch. At one point, he decides to go outside the cabin to take a piss. He sees the girl, who somehow managed to get out of her bonds, out in the snow, kind of cavorting around, kind of scooping up snow and chanting and making these weird, and doing this kind of like weird dance out there, clashing what looks to be like these silver icicles in the air. And as he approaches her, thinking like, what the hell's going on? He is met by a different entity from out there. Let's just put it that way. And he screams, a blood-curdling scream, waking up the other two guys from inside the cabin. They wake up, they look, and they see that the girl is gone, the guy is gone, their Native American friend, and his shotgun too. So they run outside the cabin to see what's going on. They find the girl out there, still in the clearing, like dancing around in the snow. And all around her, the snow is painted with blood. And there are just chunks of flesh and, blood spattering all around. It's like streamers at an 8-year-old's birthday. And they can even make out the remnants of their Native American friend's face amid the gore. They see a torn out eyeball, some shattered teeth, and hair ripped right out of the scalp. Pretty grisly. And they take the girl, they rush back in there. They realize something is definitely up here. And they decide that they need to, stay in the cabin and figure out what's going on and try to survive. So, as you can imagine, more carnage does ensue until there is only one man left to fight the entity that is out there. So, yeah, pretty exciting plot, I must say. First of all, okay, this book, I have to say, is just bristling with testosterone. I mean, this feels just like a men's book through and through. It kind of almost reminds me of John Carpenter's version of The Thing. I'm sure that there are plenty of women who love The Thing, but to me, it always kind of felt like a really testosterone-driven, men's horror movie. Well, this feels kind of like the literary equivalent of that. There is just some wonderful dialogue between these male characters, some really colorful language. Apparently, holy cock was a term that was used in Canada in the early 80s. It's used by multiple characters multiple times. I just love the way that this author, Barry Hammond, so frequently and casually actually uses the word cock, just like when referring to a man's private parts. Like every time he goes to take a leak. I think I wrote one line down. It's, where is it? Gosh. Oh, in the trees, he gingerly eased his cock out in the sub-zero air. Just like throwing it out there. But yeah, there's some great, just uncouth dialogue from these kind of, like these crazy blue-collar guys. I think I marked a page. I wanted to just show you. He says, okay, Christ, it's cold enough to freeze your fist nares off this morning. Fist nares? Asked John. Yeah, fist nares, repeated Ken. Jewels, rocks, nuts, eggs, sacks, gourds, love muscles, gonads. What anchors your worm? The glands of your one-eyed pants snake. Bulls, for Christ's sake. He laughed, grabbing his crotch to spell it out. I mean, that's just fantastic. I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of humor, surprisingly, in this book, too. Even a couple of fart jokes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, however, I do have to say, I mean, the book is filled with some loathsome characters. There's not a single person that you can kind of relate to, at least that I could relate to in this book. I mean, to give you an example of some of the types of people that populate this book, early on in the novel, at the bar where the book begins, it's like a hotel bar, these guys go lead a blind man to the restroom so that he can use the restroom. And you think, oh, that's nice, right? But they place him in front of the sink instead of the urinal and then watch and silently laugh as this poor blind man is like pissing all over the sink and down the walls and like having the urine like puddle around his shoes. These are not like good people, right? These are not nice people. I mean, the three central characters are just these really rough, like hardened men that are just so kind of caught up in their own hard scrabble existence that they can't really relate to anyone. They can't, they certainly can't relate to anyone that's not like a laborer like that, like themselves. So that was really interesting. If I look down, it's because I have some notes. I always forget to look at my notes. But yeah, the novel can be pretty misogynistic, I have to admit. I mean, it seems like every female character or female that's mentioned in this book is just like a no good, like worthless woman. For instance, one of the guys, the main reason he wants to steal the company money and run out is to evade his lawyers and to stop paying his lazy lesbian ex-wife, who, according to him, does nothing but smoke pot with her girlfriend all day and sit around. I mean, this guy thinks maybe if he, takes off, she'll have to get off her lazy ass for once in her life and like work to support their kids the way he does. But yeah, so yeah, not the nicest depictions of women. Let me see what else. So another thing that's kind of interesting about this book is that it's interestingly self-aware at times. I mean, for an early 80s horror novel, it's pretty interesting. One of the characters repeatedly thinks of how the events that are happening seem like something, quote-unquote, out of a rubber monster movie, and not real life. And he actually thinks, okay, this is like I'm in one of these cheap horror movies where the characters get set up and knocked out one by one. And he decides that he's not going to be one of those dumb characters. And, he's going to, if that is the case, he's going to be a smart character and like try to do smart things, like stay in the cabin. As it turns out, this guy does end up making an incredibly stupid decision, which costs dearly, but which does end up, paying off because it leads to an awesome climax at the end. But yeah, speaking of the climax, a very, very riveting finale here. It was just, it played out like a movie in my mind, really sort of vivid and cinematic. I really, really liked the ending. There's some pretty nasty imagery in this book. There are some really memorable scenes. There's a dream sequence, for instance, where a succession of sort of rotting and transparent bodies through which, you can see all their like blackened like muscles and tissue and insides. They keep falling on this character and disgorging from their torn throats this sort of slimy, coagulated black fluid. Just really kind of a gripping sort of scene there. There is some very strange dream imagery toward the end of the book, and there's like a kind of a conflation of sex and violence, and violent sex, which is odd, yet oddly titillating too. Probably the most vivid image in this entire book is of this this cabin girl being completely covered from head to toe in semen, just like being dripping with it and having it like this ooze running down, like she's melting almost, and then all of the semen turning into a gelatinous mass of fish eggs, which go on to engulf a character and sort of like envelop him completely, go down his mouth. Yeah, very, very strange and unique and interesting imagery, I must say. But yeah, I actually loved the prose style of this book. I thought right from the prologue, written in just this clean, vivid, evocative style, kind of really lent itself to the the cinematic nature of the book. Just some brilliant winter atmosphere as well. I mean, I could virtually feel the snow and the chill in the air as I was reading this thing. Yeah, just overall, just a fun, short, nasty little novel. Fun little potboiler. I really enjoyed reading it. I think, perfect for winter time. I mean, this is the perfect book to be read in front of a fire on a cold January night. Now, unfortunately, I did just check before recording this, and apparently there are 0 copies of this book available online. I mean, there's nothing on Amazon, on Abe Books, and eBay. I didn't see anything, so it's pretty damn obscure at the moment, but I recommend you guys keep checking back. I mean, this has happened to me in the past, and if you persevere, you might find something, but because I would recommend this. I wouldn't recommend you pay inordinate amounts for it, but, I think it's definitely worth the price of, say, like a Blu-ray. That's kind of like my thing. If it's a book that I really want, I'll pay like up to a Blu-ray's price, that $20 range. This one is there. So keep a lookout for it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that, if you guys are, fans of most of the stuff I talk about on this channel, you would enjoy it too. So yes, Cold Front by Barry Hammond. Fun little, nasty little potboiler. So yeah, that's the review, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, as always, and keep a lookout for more fun book reviews coming this year, more fun collection videos, and hauls and all that good stuff. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.